to this talk on the work of the child abuse team at Switalskis Solicitors. My name is David Greenwood. I'm here with Amy Clowrey. I'm going to be asking her about some of the work that she has been doing. So Amy, can you tell us something about the Lambeth Redress scheme?
Yeah, so the Lambeth Children's Home Redress Scheme, which I'll just refer to as a scheme for the purpose of this talk, was set up in 2018 after a shed load of work from a survivor organisation called Shelley Oak Survivors Association, often referred to as SOSA, and they basically did lots of investigatory work and prepared very detailed reports and provided evidence to Lambeth, which basically put them in a corner to show them that there had been systemic failings in the care of children that were in the local authority care from the early 1900s up until the children's homes closed in the 1990s. So as a result of that, they campaigned incredibly hard to get Lambeth to set up a scheme, which is the first of its kind in England and Wales. It's called, as I mentioned, the Lambeth Children's Home Redress Scheme, and it compensates survivors of abuse that have been subject to physical, psychological, sexual or racial abuse during the care of Lambeth. Now, it's not without its limits, so it only covers children's homes that were run by Lambeth, or children's or foster placements directly from a Lambeth children's home, and that is again because SOSA were able to provide evidence that children had effectively been harvested for abuse and sent to specific foster carers that they knew were abusing children. This work has led to Switalskis representing around 500 survivors of abuse, and so far we've recovered about 15 million in damages for our clients, which is I think is the highest that any firm has obtained for survivors. The scheme is limited to £125,000 plus treatment costs and other special damages such as potential loss of earnings if we were able to prove that is linked to the abuse that the person suffered. And it is a very generous scheme, with it being the first of its kind in England and Wales, but it does have room for improvement, and Switalskis has been central in lobbying for change at Lambeth Council, and we've managed to make some small amendments to the scheme to make it an easier process for survivors, such as survivors now have the choice of 3 medical experts, whereas previously they were just given a medical expert, which made survivors feel like they didn't have much control over the process, and that is something that was really important to survivors. Aside from the financial aspect of the scheme, survivors can expect to receive a letter of apology if they want one, a meeting with a senior member of the council. They could obtain counselling services through Oxley's Trust, which is based in Woolwich, or can be provided over the telephone. If that's not appropriate, then if there's been a GP referral, we can get you some counselling and ask Lambeth to fund that. They don't always do that, but often they do. And you can also obtain advice services, so housing, welfare, benefits, that sort of thing. So if anybody watching this has been a child in the care of Lambeth and isn't sure whether they're able to make a claim, then I would certainly recommend they give us a call and we can chat them through it. The scheme does close on the 1st of January in 2022, so there's not much time left to make this application. So I would recommend making moves sooner rather than later, so that the stop date isn't missed.
So can you tell me, how many children do you think are eligible to join the scheme or to apply to the scheme?
Well, so far I think around 1,500 people have applied. There's a lot more children that went through the children's homes from the 1900s until the 1990s. I think the estimate was around 7,000 to 8,000 children would have gone through the system. Now, obviously not all of those children will have had negative experiences, but given the evidence that we're aware of, an overwhelming majority of the children will have suffered abuse.
And I think you mentioned somewhere in there that the standard of care given by Lambeth has been shockingly low. I don't expect you to give names or specific instances, but are you saying that the Lambeth Council knew that this abuse was going on but allowed it to happen?
Yes, I am. We know that as part of the inquiry which you mentioned in a previous talk, Lambeth has been investigated as part of the independent inquiry into child sexual abuse, and we know from that that Lambeth were aware that, or had complaints of children reporting that they've been abused by employees of the council, and that no action or the wrong action was taken. We know that people were moved around, so if a complaint was made in one children's home, they were moved to another children's home. We know that, for example, one particular employee had criminal convictions before they even went to become an employee of Lambeth, that were well known to Lambeth at that time as being related to child sexual abuse. And so it's things like that, as well as lots of other failings just relating to the management of the children's homes, that have ultimately caused an incredible amount of harm for the children that were placed in the care of Lambeth during the period that the children's homes were open.
Yeah, that's shocking to hear. I'm glad that there's a decent redress scheme up and running. Okay, well, thank you, Amy. If you need more information about the work that we do, or want to look into this in more detail, visit our website www.switalskis.com and look at the child abuse section of the website. You'll find more information there. Thank you.